Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests bring you leading-edge astrology conversations through a journey of soul growth patterns connecting astrology's energetic cycles. Get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hello, everybody. I am Sue Minahan, founder of Talk Cosmos, which is insightful conversations awakening your, let me adjust this camera here, consciousness. And today is April 23rd. I'm working with so many calendars I need to remember because today with Kaleidoscope Visions, which we always do the transits, we're working about 2 transits which are coming up ahead. Well, actually, one we just experienced on the 20th of April, and the next one will be on the 5th of May. And you might notice, interestingly, on that last screen, we've had 2 L's, which I tried to edit, but it's like, it's happening. We have double things happening. So we will have a participant that will share her life experience. Like, how do these really relate to us? It's going to be dynamic. And to let those folks know, the solar is always the new moon, and the lunar is the full moon, the culmination, something that we need to really release. Okay, we are ready now for Kaleidoscope Visions.
Learning about current transits and exploring soul growth cosmic conscious energies applied to natal transit chart readings provided from the audience. This is your Kaleidoscope Visions panel.
I'm Sue Minahan, the founder of Talk Cosmos, an eclectic evolutionary astrologer, consultant, certified color energy life coach, vice president of the Washington State Astrological Association, member of Kepler Astrology Toastmaster Club, of a Dwarf Planet University diploma and AA with music degree. I love mythology, philosophizing, collaboration. I'm an artist, writer, a perpetual student of life.
And I am John Chinworth, an astrologer from Seattle, Washington. I grew up in southern Arizona and was so obsessed with mythology that I concretely imprinted the Greco-Roman pantheon into my psyche. I still see those gods and goddesses infused into everything around me. My experiences of working with developmentally disabled and resource students for many years as both teacher and mentor has given me a strong compassion for others and has seasoned me with an exceptional reconciling energy. I have more than 18 years experience reading natal charts and continue to enhance consulting techniques by attending workshops and conferences. I use a unique blend of evolutionary, archetypal, and traditional astrological methods to look for themes in the birth chart for us to explore. I also enjoy penning poems and exploring Washington State on road trips.
And like the Sufi poet Rumi says, you are the entire ocean in a drop.
Yes, indeed, we are. Hello, John. I'm so glad to see you.
Good to see you, too.
And for our audience, Amanda was unable this week. She'll be back next month. So this is a great treat for the two of us to really dive into these charts because what an intense season.
Definitely. Yeah. Very intense.
Well, Nathan will bring up our thank you so much. And there's our 1L, but it is a solar eclipse. It's within 10 to 12 degrees of the lunar nodes. And the lunar eclipse, which is coming up, is 15 to 18 degrees. You know, we have, I will say to our audience, 3 different recent talks on Talk Cosmos about the eclipse. And at the very end, there'll be a playlist for those people on YouTube, or else just go to your podcast. KKNW has a whole library too, and you can find out a lot more information in different ways that we're looking at these. So it happens twice a year, every 6 months. The first one is that just happened on the 20th was the very last degree of Aries. How intense is that? Yeah.
And I guess degree, 29 degrees.
Yes, it is. It's still a rebirth. It's happening like if it's very masterful of really planning out some energies. Mm-hmm. And it for those people on this show, it is a Saros. That's Saros. It's a solar series 129. and it started in 1103. So it happened on 2 days, on the 20th, which is in universal time. It was in the morning at 4:12 in the morning. And in the East Coast here, it was just after midnight, 12:12. And then for the rest of the coast, like in the West Coast, it was at 9:12.
Probably about 7 p.m. your time.
Yes, it was.
Right?
I was noticing that. Yeah, it was still getting dark, but we couldn't see it. It was down there on the very low hemisphere on the, in the Pacific
I think
Ocean.
it's visible Indian Ocean, Australia.
Yes, the West Coast of the Ningaloo Reef. Thank you. So here is our, just briefly looking at the global chart, which we do regard starting at Greenwich time, which is universal time coordinated. Interestingly, too, because look at that ascendant for our consciousness. It's all a birth moment, the very beginning of Aries.
Yeah. And the other planets in Aries really say this is a very Aries kind of eclipse. Moon, Sun, Jupiter, Chiron.
And you know what I realized, and this is what we brought up with archetypal symbols, because we do the new moon, that the new moon last month was 0 or 1 degree Aries. So there it is, right at the ascendant. So it's almost like the starting point and the culmination point all at once. It's like fast track. Yeah. So then, and we're going through this pretty rapidly for folks because we have a lot of charts here and we're incorporating too. And again, go back to our other wonderful podcasts and YouTubes to see more. But this one coming up is in Scorpio. Of course, Scorpio is a water sign. It is an intense, very deep sign of transformation. And it will be almost at that, and it's fixed, almost at that midpoint, 15 degrees. It's 14 degrees and 58 seconds.
And some would say that would be a critical degree, the exact midpoint of the sign, right?
Yes, it's a world point, actually, like the 0 degrees. It's something that we all relate to. Oops, frog here in the throat. So it's May 5th. And again, starting at Greenwich, it'll be in the evening at 5:33. But wherever, as far as we're concerned, it's going to be on that day of May 5th. So in East Coast, it'll be in the afternoon at 1:33. And for the West Coast, in the morning at 10:33. And there's some seconds here, 52 seconds. And I noticed that these two Saros series actually, as of the lunar, which happens at 1608, which is right when, just shortly after the USA started having Jamestown and the Pilgrims started coming over, they are like paired until 2528. So it's quite a remarkable energy of to look at itself, however that consciousness is going to work for us. So here we are. We are going to look at, I'm thinking, well, you were going to comment. Let's go to the national chart for this May 5th lunar eclipse. Or did you want to look at both of them? And what thoughts you have between these two eclipses?
I just can't get over how the solar chart has all the Aries energy and the lunar chart has all the Taurus energy. Just like, so we're going to move forward really quickly and be adventurous and go for what we want to go for. And then suddenly we're like, wait a minute, take a breath, settle down. What have we gotten ourselves into? Maybe, I don't know. I think it's really interesting.
It is, especially since Mercury is in that natural cycle in Taurus of, hey, let's review things. And how am I feeling about it? Like, am I feeling good about this? Because that's the body. You know, it's the opposite of Scorpio, where you take your resources and connect them with another set of resources to really make life. But here it's like, my resources. How am I?
Yeah.
How's
and
this working?
tied to the North Node, the evolutionary direction we all want to take going forward. How do we put that into where we're moving forward here and doing the best we can do for ourselves and for others, and respecting others as well as they do their growth.
And that energy is huge too, looking at the fact that so many of these consciousness of these outer signs are in more socially, culturally, interpersonal signs, like we have, for the lunar eclipse in this nation, Uranus, which is really immediacy, like what's happening right now. And it is right at our midheaven in our consciousness of next to, well, I'm thinking too of Saturn that wants to know what is lasting. And it's in that consciousness of everything, Pisces. It's like the greater energies.
Sure.
Yeah, like you're saying, how is it affecting everybody?
Well, with the sun conjunct Uranus in the lunar chart on May 5th, that's like the self and then the collective coming together, right?
It is. Like, how are we networking? What works with us? Is that going to work with other people?
In Taurus, what are we building that's useful for all while we still respect ourselves? The sun, right?
Love it. Yes. Well, shall we go into Janet's charts?
Sure.
Okay. We have later at the half hour a guest, Janet, and who has agreed that we could have her chart here. And is for those people that are on YouTube, you can read it. Otherwise, for the podcast, it's May 20th, 1951, 9:10 in the evening in Van Nuys, California. So this chart has a Sagittarius rising, which is at 16 degrees. And it is almost a full moon chart. It's balsamic, meaning that the consciousness of that chart was almost getting ready to close enough in many ways, I feel, to really...
It's at the very end of the balsamic phase, actually.
Yes, 28 degrees
Like
Scorpio.
really having to finish all unfinished business kind of energy to get ready for being reborn again or starting a new cycle.
Yeah, it's very deep. And these nodes, because we have the South Node in Scorpio, must have been since it started, which was a year ago, January, I believe, been pretty meaningful to her for many changes. It would have conjuncted. And there were probably eclipses happening at that time because the eclipses are with the nodes. That's what they do, the paths cross. So, at any rate, for her chart, what stands out is looking, where's the ruler? Jupiter's the ruler, lock, stock, and barrel of Sagittarius. And it is in Aries. So really, she's also had a Jupiter return. This is so powerful. Yeah, those are big. It happens every 12 years. But Jupiter in Aries needs to speak their voice. It's a need. I mean, Gemini,
I can relate. I have Jupiter in Aries.
Yes, exactly.
I can relate.
And it's like, how do you do that? Where do you find a channel for that? How do you find a platform? I have Jupiter trine my Mars. So that's why this talk show helps. But I often find like, well, okay, so I need to speak, but what about? So it's, how do I help others?
If we look at the Jupiter, it's in the fourth house. Maybe it's finding that voice comes from an ancestry or being rooted somewhere, grounded. So you're coming from a place of strength. Like the fourth house to me is the roots of the tree. So build that base where you can always feel strong and settled, so the voice can come out.
Yeah, or able to talk other people's histories, other people's channel.
Yes.
Yeah, other ideas.
Absolutely.
So what else we have here? Also, along with that ruler, Mars, is smack dab right next to the sun. So it's very motivated. It's a very motivated sun. And it's in a house of service, of sixth house, which is...
There's a lot of dedication in this chart.
Yes. How do I and it's activation, very activated. And on a daily, it's our daily life also, and how to perfect my skills.
How to shine. Like a fierce shining and being okay with that. Mars lighting up the sun.
And interestingly, it's again that very last degree of Taurus, which is such a visual. Both Taurus is visual. It also has a lot of artful and music involved. It's not always so vocal. So
with Jupiter in the 4th house, we talked about that grounding, and we have the Sun at 29 Taurus. So really getting that Taurus energy, that's a double message of getting that groundedness down. How I want to be, represent, finding that voice.
Yeah, right? It must be very grounded. And the last thought now, looking at this, is there is a yod that's always perhaps new to some people, but that's a finger of God. And it is where you have one planet, which happens to be, in this case, her north node.
With Hygeia, that little asteroid of health, that health goddess,
yes.
Right?
And in that sign of communication. And that is between Neptune and Pluto.
Right.
So it's how to make these visions, these greater in the depth, how to vocalize. So it's always a matter of integration, because it isn't automatic, that the energies aren't easily always perceived. So it can be challenging, but it's growth, a lot of growth. They want to experience the two.
And Neptune being spirituality and Pluto being power, the power of spirituality. And because it's a yod, you're learning to, I guess, therapeutically be the word, because they're 150 degrees, how to work with that. Because not easy, right?
No, it takes, but although it depends on where your perspective is. I've read that, because I have one too. And if you get a larger perspective of it, you can find some commonality. So here we have Janet's with the sun, because we have to go to the next one too, with the lunar. Here, so I have in yellow how this eclipse, what it's really primarily doing, that's just passed on the 20th, her Mercury, her vocal, that's our consciousness of how we voice things. And it's in the 5th house of creativity.
Yeah.
And it is in that sign of Taurus. So it's grounded. It's maybe pre-verbal. I say pre-verbal because Gemini is where I have my Mercury in Gemini. Thank you. It's just, how do I coordinate my words? But I can find words usually, not always. So at any rate, it is.
It's really working with the slowed down energy of working with the words, thinking about what you're going to say, putting the words in order. It's like just really thoughtful speaking.
Or how to create it, how to manifest
creativity,
it.
5th house.
Maybe
right?
That's the energy, is really, how am I going to manifest?
Getting that expression, that creative, artistic expression.
Yes, thank you very much. I think that's it. So here we have the lunar one coming up. And I think, thankfully, it was perfect timing. Janet she filled this form out months ahead. And now it's happening, which is always a message to me how beautiful spirit works if you're working with spirit, because this is really a strong energy that we can talk about instead of ahead. It's coming up, because here the actual eclipse is it's the full moon, right? So the moon here is on the outside, and it's in the 11th house with the south node, which means it's really a releasing eclipse for all of us. And in this case, it's in the 11th house of, who are my like-minded people? Who's my group?
Who's my guild? Who's my professional group? My out in the world community?
Yeah, the ones that
recognizes me.
Right.
I caught something between these two charts. The Vesta is very close to Mercury, I think, in both charts. So there's a sacred tone to this.
Oh, yes. Now, for
right?
those people,
Really interesting.
Vesta is this, the hearth, and it looks like a little fire, kind of like a hearth. And it is.
And one of the brightest asteroids, like in the entire belt.
It's what's sacred, your sacred hearth. Yeah. And if it's in the 5th house, how do I do that? And where did you see it here? Oh, yes. And it's also Mercury. Near the sun.
And it's also on the node. It's conjunct.
In the 5th house. So the 5th house is very distinctive in this chart. However, this chart also has other has other energies it's wanting to coordinate. There's an action. Squares, in my language, particularly with vibrational astrology, mean how am I being motivated to act? So it's just a challenge of it. Well, it can be challenging. It's just you want to be active. And she already has a lot of activation in her chart with that Mars, with the sun, that consciousness. She's an active person. But here it's with her Saturn of longevity. Saturn is longevity. What is the core principle of what's lasting? And it's involved in this eclipse T-square, you could say, with Ceres. It's nurturing. How am I going to nurture what I see as long lasting with Neptune and Venus? So how Venus being that consciousness of desires and communicating what people desire to other people in that 7th house with the greater picture. So it's an awareness, right? It's an awareness and how to
Neptune
tie it together.
Throwing a little bit of fog in, so it's hard to see where you're standing at the moment. And you have to wait for some of the fog to clear out of the way to see what just happened. So that's the thing with Neptune.
Except I think it's greater spirituality. Like if it is, like she has this other 5th house, how to manifest personally, how to manifest things from the 11th, then it's like, because Saturn, which is longevity, and Neptune, which is the greater vision, what's really spectacular, out of this world, how am I going to focus that to really bring meaningfulness or value to other people? So it's a creative thing. Remember, this is the 5th. We're talking ahead. Plus, just to tie this together as one of the energies happening, consciousness energies, has an aspect that's another yod that's just for this eclipse saying, okay, this is the energy here. And it's to her natal moon, that powerful Scorpio 28-degree moon in the 12th house that's concerned with the powers greater than herself anyway. And where it's in this quincunx trying to adjust to that Jupiter that's in the transiting Jupiter at 27 degrees and the Venus. So really, I think there's a lot of overlap here because the focus, if it's Venus, would be in the house of others. Like, how am I getting the values and what other people are desiring, and the big picture of how to voice things in a creative way. Mm-hmm. But it's always tricky when you have to get your own emotional, how you're feeling about things, and that depth of.
I think that covers that aspect. I don't know what to add to that. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking, what do I have next? Oh, that's us. That's fine. Let's go back because I'm thinking we're almost ahead. We could actually break a little bit ahead. We have a break here because it'll be interesting to see what Janet has to say and her question. So we have a lot of time that we can devote to that. So, all right. Well, thank you, John. This is Kaleidoscope Visions for those that are listening. And it is April 23rd, just between the two eclipses. We had one, it's a season every 6 months, but this is the first set. And it's the last set of eclipses with the nodes that we have right now, that we've been experiencing for almost a year and a half. which is our resources of ourself, which we're trying to head towards, and those shared resources in Scorpio. One way of looking at it. So thank you for listening, and we'll be right back with John Chinworth and Al. Thank you.
While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We're currently in the period of Taurus. By leaving a cycle based upon initiation, the energy of Taurus integrates spirit into a solid form of matter that is tangible and physical. It's an earth sign, concerned with self-sufficiency and the values to maintain the strength of a life form throughout its survival.
This is Martha Norwalk. Every Sunday morning, beginning at 9 a.m., thanks in part to the Ananda Institute of Living Yoga, we cover the world of animals. This week, April 30th, it's an encore presentation. Join us to hear our last healing show with Dr. Nels Rasmussen and Linda Rasmussen in the studio. They help lots of listeners and animals with healing, and if you tune in and follow along, you can get a surrogate healing. So join us for Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Talk Cosmos brings you leading-edge astrological conversations with hour-long programs each week on KKNW. The show goes live every Sunday from 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on Facebook and YouTube, along with daily chats throughout the week on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel. While you're there, make sure you click like and subscribe buttons so you can get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or, if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. So, grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
Alternative Talk 1150. Talk radio for the body, mind, and soul.
Woo, that's the whole 9 yards. Very good. Well, hi, John. Yeah. Well, we're back again. This is Kaleidoscope Visions. Everybody knows that. And I thank everybody that listens, and I thank everybody that subscribes. I send out a weekly subscription, so subscribe to that. And it always has other information on it. Okay, well, I think with that said, how about if we have Janet join us?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was pretty right on what you guys said. I've always been a workaholic, and I've always had a steady job. Spirituality has always been my biggest concern. I got involved at a really young age in the spiritualist churches, and I was drawn there by spirit, and I became a medium and a healer. I also was a registered counselor. And at the beginning, when I was young, I was on TV, and then things changed where I kind of laid low. So it's kind of coming up again for me to do my work, but I always do service. I speak publicly. I do charity work. And then to ground me, I was a personal trainer. I still work out. I do boot camp and lift weights, even though I'm older. And so you got it pretty right on. And I just went through a clearing of maybe one or two people that I didn't feel was a positive choice in my life. And I love animals. And I hope you don't hear my dog barking.
Oh, it's okay. I'm sure if so, the animal will be adding to our conversation, saying, yes, that's right on. And interestingly, before this show, we have Martha Norwalk Animal Show. So, well,
yeah.
That is, go ahead, Janet.
Well, I think for me now it's coming up because I was supposed to do a seminar coming up, but then a family event came. So something changed. So it's me, whether I'm going out there public again, or there's a part of me that just likes my freedom and to travel.
Yes. When you say a seminar, how long is that seminar? Is it because it sounds like it'd be a time commitment?
Yeah, but it would only be like a day thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not a long time, seminar.
How often do you do seminars?
Well, I haven't been doing them as much, but because of some sickness and stuff, and my husband got sick, and so I kind of laid low for a while. And so now I was supposed to maybe go around May, and I might delay it and then start, again. But in the meantime, I always do service.
You really do exemplify when you said too about the exercise, because so often that's the Virgo and Mars right there. So I applaud that commitment. It's always a commitment. And so yes, and you relating that you've released a few people, that would be that 11th house, perhaps getting prepared, the energy is still happening. So are you thinking of a new manifestation that you would like to create to share with people, like in a written form or a publishing form?
It might be with writing, but I kind of delayed it. Sometimes my mind goes too fast, so I don't feel like I always can say what I'm thinking. I'm dyslexic. But maybe in that form, or maybe going more with, hopefully traveling and then doing some work and then coming home and traveling and doing some work. I love to travel.
How, if you went traveling now, where would you want to go? How long would you want to be traveling?
Well, I also live on the Olympic Peninsula, so someplace sunbelt.
It's
been a gray winter. I get that.
I understand.
There was my niece lives in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I really like it there. So she said to come down in May, but I'm going to delay it. But the next trip I think to do maybe some work would be in Houston.
They have a good metaphysical store there in Tempe, which is, in the Scottsdale, Tempe area, because I used to live there in Scottsdale, and I just know that there is a good community, I think, in Arizona.
In general, yeah. Also in Tucson, where I'm from, it's very strong.
Yeah, I actually think I would probably do even better in that area than where I live.
Have you considered doing like vlogs rather than having to write to be able to just speak?
It's like called VLOGS.
Yeah, like
I guess
podcast or you know what I mean? Instead of having to like put pen to paper and have to whatever that is for you right now. If that's difficult, have you thought about just speaking in front of a camera and just going that route? I'm just curious about that. Uh-oh.
Doesn't sound like it. Are you there, Janet? Did we lose you?
No, for a minute. I'm back now.
Oh, okay. Very good. Yeah, it said that. Well, John was just asking if there's... Okay, I will going to reframe this. That idea of publishing really sounds pretty exciting, because there's so much in this chart naturally that the consciousness of that accentuates that idea of taking your voice and putting it out in a published form. But there's many ways to publish these days. Of course, we're concerned often with the book, but there's also, like John was saying, about maybe verbal, like whether it's they call it vlog, I guess, VLOG, which is, what is it, John?
Video log instead of a written one. Like blog when you're writing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But publishing, in some ways, you have a Sagittarius rising. There's Saturn in the 9th house, which is area that and it's being activated in this one about a nurturing way. And tying together your values and the
And
greater
the sun rules the
spirituality.
ninth house of publishing, shining in the realm of some kind of getting your words out there, or your message. Maybe you should say it that way.
Yeah, and Jupiter right at the very base of your soul, and you just had a return. So I would think that that's an interesting thing. You said that. I'm wondering if, every 12 years, Jupiter returns. And for you, because it rules your ascendant, it's probably very powerful. So I'm wondering if you said that these things are surfacing since you were young. Where did I write that down? That you began this energy, this spiritual mediumship when you were very young, and other things. Do you think it ties into 12-year patterns? That would have been, 2023 minus 12 would have been 2011, 2000.
So it's like 99 or something like that, 98.
Yeah, 99, 98.
Did the math right.
1977. Are any of these ringing bells that are energy starts that you're kind of restarting a new path on?
98 is when we moved to the Olympic Peninsula. We lived in Port Townsend before, but then we moved to Kingston, so that was a change. In 77, I don't remember. In the early 70s, I lived in Europe. I lived in Amsterdam in Italy, and then I went back in the 90s, and I lived again in Europe, and that's actually, it's kind of funny because when I first went to Europe, I went with my ex-husband, and when I went back in the 90s, I met my present husband. In Amsterdam.
Yeah. Travel is very big for you. It expands very much.
Yeah. And my husband's from Egypt, so I've been to Egypt and have family in Egypt.
That's and how talk about our spirituality that, very old, like here you have, interestingly, natally, your ruler, Jupiter, that's everything about other cultures in the root. Like when John said it's at the base, like our fourth house represents the very fundamental parts of ourselves, and your timeline must go way back in time. And your husband is a representation of that.
Well, I'm just throwing some ideas out here. You've mentioned travel and spirituality and getting some kind of a message out. What if those are combined in some way and you're doing some kind of writing or vlogging about your travels with a spiritual bent to it? You can arrive at a new place and then be able to talk about that, what that means spiritually, and that'd be very interesting.
And that's actually what I have been thinking about for a long time. I would start it, and then, I had a rollover accident, and my husband had some sicknesses, viral meningitis. So it seemed like, luckily, everybody prayed for us, and so we always came through. But I thought about that, and because it goes way back, like when I got into more spirituality, people really thought you were crazy back then.
Things have changed, yes.
Yeah, there's definitely an audience for it, I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In the chart right now, we have Ceres traveling through the ninth house, and Ceres is the goddess of gardening and growing things, and maybe she's wanting you to plant some seeds. If nothing comes to fruition, right? If it's not going to happen now, you can definitely start to nurture that and put the ideas out and plant some gardens that would become fruitful later.
And it's where we claim the
Yes.
positive, the growth side of Ceres is where we claim something for ourselves.
Yes.
And I'm also thinking, like you brought up your dog and that you love animals. And I'm also thinking that besides people, there's a big audience of people that want to know more about their spirituality with their animals. So there could be a tie through with that. And of course, with 6th house, it's small animals, and 12th house is big animals. So it's the whole basket of animals, how you would. Do you have a certain thought about working that way?
I've done readings for people that have animals too. And I've always had, like, we have a little Shih Tzu poodle mix. And he's like super, super smart. And then we had a Shih Tzu before that and a cat for 21 years. So, and he was abandoned. The cat was abandoned twice. And so at the beginning, this gives you kind of an idea. I kept telling the cat, you're not going to be abandoned because he'd be shaking and hiding under the couch. And then I kept giving him affirmations, and then that cat thought he was king of the house.
Oh my! Yeah.
So, it was like a beautiful transformation because he wasn't taken care of. He was abandoned twice, and I didn't even want a cat. Somebody said, you want a cat? So I took him in. So I love animals. Animals, like, they give you more unconditional love than people do. They teach us big lessons of love.
Yes, they do. I've understood that animals, their contract, they have specifically one for us. We don't necessarily have, not like with people where we have 2 soul contracts, if this makes any sense, that they're totally there for us.
Yeah, that's really true. And like, I was so heartbroken this gives an example, when the last dog died, I was so heartbroken. And it took me over a year to try to think about another animal. And we have a big picture of our dog that died. And I looked at the picture and I said, are you going to help me get a dog? And the very next day, I got a hit on the dog. And that's when and I named the dog Prince. And that's when Prince came to our house.
I share, when we lost our dog, which we had inherited from my father because we caretaked my dad for 3.5 years, I just grieved. I thought that dog was right next to me for years. And even now it's like a emblem of love for me. I understand totally. And I'm looking at this lunar eclipse. The south node is 4 degrees Taurus, which, because it's ending in July on the 18th, it goes backwards. The nodes go backwards, actually. And so it'll be in Aries that for our north node.
I think that's 4 degrees Scorpio.
But no. The north node is...
Oh, north node is a Taurus.
Yeah,
yes.
4 degrees Taurus. Yeah, that's all right. And it is conjunct, exactly. In other words, it's lined up with that energy of your Mercury in Taurus.
Yeah.
And it's right in the 5th house. So the moon itself is so, in other words, the moon and the sun, because they're within range, they have to be within 15 to 18 degrees to have an eclipse. So this is not a total eclipse of this particular, it's a long 1200 year cycle, but it repeats itself. But the point that I'm making is that the nodes, the north node where you're heading, is towards your vocal expression or some kind of expression. It could be an art form too, in a creative way. It's in that. And also you have your natal energy that transmutes things, that Pluto consciousness, which is very deep, in a deep spot in your house.
I make jewelry too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of a creative outlet for me.
I can't think what rules jewelry. I think that's Venus or Neptune.
Well, skills, it would probably be in the 6th also. But
Right.
then is there some way that, let me ask before we leave here, do you have something that you're, to help us? Like, what are you wondering? Or you have a question in mind?
I think you hit it when you said more about me maybe doing publishing instead of maybe going out there and doing seminars and things like that, maybe to concentrate more on the publishing right now and start something with that energy. So I think that for me, that was helpful. And
I remember you can create that from a home base that Jupiter wants to be at home, and that could be set up. There's a lot of options now to do that.
yeah, I just need some more guidance with that. But yeah, and that would be good.
And
And
as
I
you
think,
travel, that office can go with you.
yeah,
Right?
that's the nice thing about it. Um, so kind of more, I was thinking more on those energies of what's going to be next for me. It would have to do with spirituality, of course, because that's the most important thing to me.
I have 2 thoughts, Gemini here, 2 thoughts. One
Uh-huh.
is that there is there's various ones, but because there's a book I want to write and that I'm in the process of. And I understand that there's a Scrivener. It's SCRV, let's see, SCRVIRNER, Scrivener. And there's a free version that you can use for 30 days, meaning that whenever you work with it, that 30 days. So if you don't work with it within 30 days, could be in 4 months, whatever, then you purchase it. And it's only $59, I think, too, to purchase. So it's not outrageous, but it has a system of writing. I guess it's a little tech involved. I don't know about tech involved. I'm just learning it myself, but the point is that you can do your chapters and then rearrange them all the time. I guess it facilitates writing very easily. Yeah. So look into that. And what was the other thought now, Sue? I know that traveling. Okay. In the past, it's been you're in that new seed year with just finishing up. You just had that return and you're still with Jupiter energy. I would imagine that going down to Scottsdale to visit your family member, and as we've said, it has a good metaphysical energy there, and also in Tucson, which also has a lot of. In other words, you may meet people that will help facilitate another partnership. It won't be perhaps a romantic one, such as you had with your husband, but it'll be meaningful, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I grew up in the sun, too. I grew up in California. Mm-hmm. So sometimes when it's up here and it's dark and gloomy, it's a different story.
Especially when we're getting into April, May, and June. It's been a long time. Yeah.
But it's beautiful up here, and I'm grateful.
It is true. Yeah, these energies are pretty amazing as far as, because, and let me ask you something, because it does involve your moon, your emotional. Are there areas of your past that maybe you would like to tell a story about? Is that part of it? Like you said.
Yeah, I had abuse and some stuff like that. And so and I did share that, I remember, at a seminar last year. I didn't really know very many people. And a woman came up to me crying, and it helped her. If you help one person, I feel like you're doing a blessing. So anybody that you get that energy and you help, I just always think of myself as a tool, just a platform to help people. And so in that way, the writing might help that. And I thought about that too, like to do some stuff, but I'd have to do it carefully to help women go into who they are now and not what the abuse had happened. I mean, that it happened, but that you have to arise from that and not blame that and see your true soul of who you really are.
There's a signature in your chart. There's a signature in your chart that speaks to that. In the natal chart, there's Juno conjunct the moon. And right now, Juno is conjunct Sun Mars, which I think is really interesting. Juno, this goddess of fidelity and who we work with. And she's also, some say, the ultimate woman goddess and the genius of women. And I think that's really interesting. Right there with the moon, the need to take care of women, maybe, perhaps, is that interpretation.
And I might add that Juno represents our alignments, who we're in partnership. Right. And to look at it, looks like a little flower. That's where it's sitting in the chart. Where in the heck is it right now? Oh, and it's also next to your moon. That's right. But I'm thinking that seems to me to be the book that wants to be. So in other words, when one's writing a book, it takes a while to figure out what is it that I really need to talk about. What is it I need to share? And sometimes I know I have one from abandonment too when I was small. And I had this big epic idea of a book, but I realized that regardless if I do that book, I have this first one about what it meant in my life as a gift, that experience at 3 years old and 3.5. So I think.
And a powerful book can be a small volume like Jonathan Livingston Seagull, which is not that big, and it was powerful. So it doesn't have to be this gigantic encyclopedic thing. It could be just a brief thing, and it could catch on, and it would help people.
That's a good note, because sometimes I think of, it has to be real big or it has to be this way because it's trying to keep it professional, but that's not really true. I think the main thing is just really speaking from your heart and putting the word out.
Do you do crafts? Do you paint at all or draw?
No, I'm not good at that.
Okay. No, that's fine. I just wanted to ask. That's all. No worry. But this is true. I think focusing on that, you have such strong meditative energies that and releasing the conditioning, that might be another part of this, because Saturn can think, and it's in a sign that wants to have detail, and in Virgo, it wants to be conscientious. But yet, if you just release as much conditioning about that and let your heart speak, I think you'll work with the creative energy that way. And, books, too, lend great notability or credentials for speaking engagements. That's the other side of it these days.
Yeah, that's really true. That's really true. It's almost like you have to have a book to speak unless you know people or you have a good person.
Well, it opens
setting
up
up.
but it opens up all kinds of avenues. It could be quite rejuvenating, I would think, to share. Oh, that's right. You know what, Nathan, if we can go right back to that for a sec, I just wanted, this is John. Thank you very much, Janet. It's been a blessing.
Thank you both.
Thank you,
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure. Thank you, John. Here we have John Chinworth, skypathastro.com. If you're interested in contacting him, of course, I'm Talk Cosmos. And here is our YouTube station. And also to get that newsletter, just sign up. You can go to Talk Cosmos website. And if you do go to the YouTube station, you will see a whole host of playlists. And here I have, as the last slide, a whole ton of them about Pluto and about 2023 and the equinox and all about the eclipses. So thank you, here. Now I have John. Hello, John.
Hello.
Well, we missed Amanda, but I think we carried it through. It's quite, now I'm realizing we better look at our own charts for this lunar eclipse coming up.
I'm going to have to, yeah.
Yeah, it's the first time that Pluto is in Aquarius ruling that south node. So it is wanting to do more, how to elevate, what's our network, who's our people that love us, that we love.
Transformation of communities and the power in the community that we have.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're in my community. This is good.
Thank you. Me too.
Yeah, we go way back because, like Amanda said, we went to the Great American Eclipse in 2017.
In Idaho. That was so fun.
Oh, it was. It was a great retreat with Gemini Brett, who organized it, and Amanda was there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so anyway, we may not be the official Eclipse crew, but onward.
Thank you for joining us on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests connect soul growth patterns with the energetic cycles of astrology. Be sure to tune in next Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.